This is at eye level from somebody that's 6 foot. That's how much you can see. This is somebody that's I guess 5 foot right here. Still wouldn't be able to see. Let's say that they're a midget. That's a midget.
Maybe a little person.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, little person.
4'10" or under.
Still can't see it. Let's say you're on your knees. Then you'd have to be there. Okay, we're doing an install on a GMC Denali. The Chevy and the GMC are exactly the same. The second generation of the pickup truck and the third generation, which is the latest generation, is the third generation of Chevy GMC pickup trucks, are exactly the same. They did not change the seats as far as the install that we are doing today is concerned. So starting with step one, you're gonna need to have a clear area so you can work, put the seat up, and we're gonna start with the how to take your upholstery apart. And it's gonna start with this plastic piece right here, and to do so you're gonna need a small flathead screwdriver, and it just kind of pries out. It's a pressure fit.
T30.
Okay, T30 Torx. Now the screw comes out. You set that aside. The whole plastic piece just pulls out and down and out. Okay, after we uninstalled this plastic part, now we're going to move just below that.
So there's a flap here. There's actually two flaps, and we're going to go ahead and basically pry them apart. And once you start getting it going, you're just going to go ahead and slide your fingers across, and you're going to start hearing it kind of like a zipper just opening up. And so you can see right here, there's two flaps that look just like this, and they just overlap. They interlock. What we did was we just took these two pieces apart so they interlock with each other. They both look kind of like little J's, and they just fit into each other on each other. So we just took a tool, something like this, and we're just gonna pop the lid off the other J.
And once you get it started, then you just run your finger down it. It comes off fairly easily. But you can see there is at the very top of this, there is kind of a barb. So you have to pull it back to get that barb released.
Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to move the two upholstery clips on the side. There's one on this side, it's right in here, and there's one on the other side, basically in the same position on the other side. So we're going to go ahead and take this upholstery tool. Okay. And went ahead and popped off. So this is the upholstery clip we were talking about. Just one of those standard
Pressure fit
upholstery clips. We're going to go ahead and do the same thing on the other side. Alright, so that's off. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and pull this down a little bit. We'll go ahead and pull the upholstery through the back end. Okay, so once you get the upholstery pulled through on the back end, you're going to want to stop. You don't want to pull any further, because all along on each of these seams there's going to be Velcro attached to the foam, and if you just pull up, you're going to tear the Velcro off of the foam. You're not going to pull the Velcro apart. You're just going to tear it directly off the foam, and you're going to have to glue it back on. So your next step is just going to be just to get it there. So now that we've pulled the upholstery through the back side, I'm going to go ahead and lift up the seat, and we're going to be removing the foam and the upholstery at the same time. So if you reach up through here, you're going to feel a couple tabs. So there's two tubes. There's a tube down here at the bottom, and then there's a larger tube up here, right here, and you can kind of see it there, and it just goes all the way across. And so there's two tabs that are going to hold the foam, one about right here, one about right here. So you're going to reach up through underneath, and you're going to feel between the foam and the tube where that tab is. So, and you want to be kind of careful on this because you don't want to just rip the foam through and pull it through the tab. You want to use one of these kind of like U-shaped tools, or if you can use your fingers to get it off yourself and pop the tab off. All right, there it goes. So it's another one of those pressure fitted clips that we were talking about earlier.
Same exact one.
Okay. You want to pull this through the tube and through the foam. What you don't want to do is pull the foam that's between the tube and this out, ripping the foam. So take your time with that. So now that we have the foam is basically now just here in the upholstery, we're gonna go ahead and lift it up off the seat. Be kind of careful. And these are the tab locations. You can see these holes right here on the top tube, and these are the upholstery pins that just go in there. There's gonna be one here, and then there's gonna be one on this side.
Okay, now we're at the stage where we're going to test fit where we have it. You have to imagine the seat going up and down, and your actual rifle coming up and off of the ARmA15 unit. Now, some of the things to note about where we're going to place the bar on this is you do not want to drill through where these springs come through on the backside. So you can see on the backside where they exit, you don't want your drill holes to go anywhere through there. We're gonna actually just straddle this spring and just put it right here. And the rifle we're working with, this customer's rifle, is gonna go right here like this, and it'll have plenty. It could go, depending on your stock location, you can have it further over here or over here, but it's pretty much going to go in this region here. And then once you've realized where you want the rifle to go in that location, then the next step is you're going to be looking at the height of where you want the ARmA15 on the bar. It can't go too low here because you don't want the rifle to hit anything on the ground. So we're going to set ours just kind of generally in the middle here. Okay, with the ARmA15 Chevy / GMC Riv Nut Kit, it's going to come with this bar and all the hardware you need. So all the nuts and bolts and screws and riv nuts, and even the riv nut installation tool that we're talking about and using in this video is going to come in that hardware kit. So we're going to go ahead and mark the bar where we want it. Okay, we're going to do just this process for one, and then it'll be exactly the same for all of them. We're going to mark it with a center punch. Then we're going to come through with our step bit. You can use regular bits if you want. This just works faster. Just doing enough to get our hardware through. Okay, that seems to be good. Do the same thing for all the rest of them. Then you're gonna go through here, and you can see on these holes we already went ahead and center punched, but you can mark and then center punch. For the drill process, you're gonna want to make sure that you have a drop cloth underneath all of this stuff, so that way you're not leaving a bunch of shavings in your truck. So that way once you're done with this project, you can just take that drop cloth off, or you can use a piece of cardboard or something like that and just throw it away. But it'll just make cleaning out your truck so much easier once this is all done. We're gonna just start it off with a step bit. Again, we're just going for a hole big enough for the hardware that is supplied in your ARmA15 Chevy GMC Riv Nut Kit to go through. And then we're basically going to do the same thing on all four to get the hole started. Okay, once you got all 4 drilled, then we're going to go through with the appropriate drill bit size and do the back side. You have your holes drilled on one side of the tubing. You're basically going to take a small pilot bit to go ahead and start the back side, and just make sure that you get that centered. Okay, once you got all 4 drilled, then you're just going to go ahead and take the part down. And now you have where your holes are, and you're going to go ahead and proceed with your step bit, or if you want to use each individual drill bits going up to size, you can do it that way too. Okay, now for the bottom part of the bar, you're not going to be able to get probably a drill bit behind there, so you're going to have to go through from this side and step up with each bit. Alright, so now you're going to go ahead and mark the holes of where you're going to have the ARmA15. You have a little bit of flexibility. You might want to look at optics and imagine the rifle coming up and off. We're going to put ours kind of towards the middle here. The holes that you're going to be looking at marking is, I'm going to mark it about here, and then I'm going to mark the top hole. This is going to be the first hole we're going to drill is going to be on the bottom here, and then the second hole will be here. And those are 1 inch apart. Mark one hole there. And then for this, I'm just going to go ahead and measure, since I know that it's 1 inch apart, and go 1 inch down. Okay, so the holes that we're going to be marking, you can see is going to be right at the tips of where you see the calipers. Okay, and the center to center, you're looking at 1 inch. So we already have our top hole there. And we're going to just take our caliper. You can do this with just a standard tape measure. This is just what we had handy. So we use calipers a lot. The way that we're going to do it, since we have the spring directly behind this in the location we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and take this off and go ahead and center punch these. Okay, we're going to go over how to install riv nuts for use with the ARmA15. And the riv nut is a self-expanding nut, and it's basically when you don't have access to this back side. So we're going to show you how to do that with some very common tools that comes in our riv nut kit. And here's that tool here. Okay, and when installing, you just install the riv nut just like that. It will be assembled in this fashion when you get it in your kit. So we're going to go ahead and begin that with the step bit. Always make sure that you're using iPro, because as you can see, there's a lot of shavings that come off. Once you get the hole started, or if you've already center punched it, after you center punch, go ahead and put some type of lubricant on there. Oil just makes the drill, saves your drill bit, makes it go easier. And you can see on our drill bit, we went ahead and marked our stop point. For the easiest technique when installing riv nuts, it's best to have a relatively tight fit when inserting it. The 27/64 is a recommended drill bit to use for this application. What a 7/16 will do in our case is gives us just a touch of slop, which ideally you would have this like that to where it would just barely fit in, and you would have to tap it in with a hammer. Make sure that you do not enlarge this hole any more than you need to. You can see the amount of slop that I have in there. Very, very little. Another tip when installing the riv nut is to put just a few drops of lubricant. It doesn't really matter what type of oil. The thicker the better though. I mean, you could use motor oil or heavyweight gear oil or whatever you got. If all you got is lightweight, you can use that. It's better than nothing. But you want to lubricate the threads. It just makes the whole process easier. So you're going to use your first wrench to basically hold the nut, and that nut is a loose nut. It's just there to kind of hold everything in line. And you can see that the riv nut may want to try, especially when you have it loose like this with a touch of slop, may want to try to pop out. And you can see it right there. So let me angle this. So you can see that it's trying to pop out right there. If it starts to do that, as soon as it grabs hold, you want to tap it in. Okay. Once you've tapped it into place, then you can continue. You want it to be relatively flush. Okay, now what I want you to do is watch the back side. Now you can see that the riv nut is starting to expand on the back side, and we have this up flush as it can be. We can just proceed to tighten it down. You will notice an increase in pressure where it just gets really tough, like you're tightening a bolt and it's done. Okay, and right there, you just unloosen the bolt now, and that's all it is to install a riv nut. I'm going to show you what the finished product looks like. We just did it the simple, using very simple tools. Okay, so on this side, I'm going to angle this a little bit. You can see that it is flush, and which is, you need to maintain pressure on this side to keep that flush. And it, like I said, as it pops out, just at that point, as soon as it starts to grab a hold, stop and tap it in. What happens if you do not stop at that point and you just continue to do it once it's not flush here, is you will get this part where the back of the riv nut expands. You'll get that part on the wrong side, and you'll just basically waste that riv nut, and you'll have to start all over again. What is the advantage to using riv nuts? Well, maybe you don't have access to this back side. Okay, it's used a lot in the automotive aircraft industry for that purpose, when you don't have access to the backside of material. And for our purposes, on our first videos, install videos, we did this without riv nuts. We used just standard nuts and bolts, and what we found was it took way too many hands in there. We actually had 3 people trying to hold everything back, and one guy trying to hold a wrench back here, and one guy trying to tighten this, and it was just a way too many dudes in the back seat of a truck, for sure. So after that negative experience, then we went to riv nuts, and it's so much easier and so much simpler. Once you put the upholstery over all of this, then you just have to find the riv nut. You don't have to try to blindly put a wrench behind there. And if you want to try it and do it that way, by all means you can do it that way, but expect to need a couple more hands than just yourself, for sure. Okay, now that we got the riv nut installed, take the hardware, get your 2 long bolts on the top, and the shorter ones on the bottom. And we do supply you with a nylock washer, so you don't have to use any Loctite. You can if you want to, but this is a nylock nut. So, but once you take the nylock off, it pretty much destroys the plastic and the locking ability a lot of the times. So you would have to apply Loctite if you took it off, if you mounted it and then took it off again. Okay, once you get that part done, we're going to start with the bottom roof nut. The way that I'm going to do this is I'm going to screw it in just by hand, just to about the thickness of the ARmA15. Now, of course, we're going to have carpet in here, so I'm going to leave it a little bit of extra, but basically, once everything's said and done, it's going to go in, slide down, and then as you can see, our final screw will go in right there and pull it against. But now let's go ahead and put the upholstery back on.
Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and slide the upholstery back over. And then we're going to have to put in those 2 tabs that we took out on the top. So we'll go ahead and line this up first. Two tabs, put those in. Okay, so those 2 tabs are on. We're now going to replace the 2
Upholstery clips on either end.
side tabs. So let's take this through. Okay, that one's in. Actually, at this moment, I'm going to just go ahead and tuck this back through the other side. So now, here's that other clip we were talking about. Let's put that in. Okay, it's popped in.
I'm going to show where that clip went in. You can see it.
Just goes over that. Before I forget, pull this seatbelt through.
Oh, you think your passengers need seatbelts?
No.
I mean, I guess it's not the 80s anymore.
So now we're gonna put these 2 flaps on each other, and I'm gonna get this nice and snug, pull it all the way down. What we want to do is make sure all that fabric is pulled nice and tight back down. So this is also going to help when you when the seat's all the way put together. There's no loose fabric or leather or anything on the other side of the seat, but it also gives us all the extra play and room that we need to get this flap on as easily as possible. Okay.
Tight is good, loose is bad.
Yeah, that's
the general consensus.
okay. For this, I'm just gonna use my fingers to go ahead and work the flap. And it
Insert comment here for Troy's
finger ability.
because you already know they're gonna do it.
Okay, so you'll hear this flap click back into place as you get it on. Now I'm going to go ahead and install this clip portion that allowed us to take off the upholstery.
I
And
really like calling things clips. That's like your thing. Like,
Okay.
what do you call magazines? Do you call those clips too?
okay, so I'm gonna take this plastic upholstery piece,
Just kidding.
this felt upholstery piece, and I'm gonna place the two upholstery pieces on top of each other. Okay, and so as you can see on this plastic piece right here, there's a little lid, so that's gonna go up and like that, and it's gonna get pushed in. We're gonna go ahead and take
T30.
this torque screw and our T30 bit. And just nice and snug. Okay, now we're gonna pop in the little cap cover, or screw cover. And there we go. I'll go ahead and drop down the seat, double check everything, make sure everything looks good.
Even has a seat belt.
And it does.
Imagine that. Everything looks perfect.
Upholstery's done. Now we're gonna have to find where our two rib nuts were, and we left one of the torque screws in.
I took it out actually.
Oh, you did? Okay. So all we're gonna be finding is the two torque rivet nut holes, which are right here. They're easy enough to find, especially if you have a general idea of where they are. You can just feel for the little rib nut hole. We're gonna be using a soldering iron to go ahead and make some holes in the back of the upholstery. You can use a little box cutter and cut some X's right here. And then if you were ever to remove the ARmA15, you could just kind of push the material over and it would pretty much cover up any hole that you made.
But this makes a lot cleaner and faster than doing it. One of
the
our
cutting method.
Yeah, one of our users actually recommended this to us, and we've been using it ever since. It works really well. Just don't want to go overboard. Make a much smaller hole than you will think you'll need, because that.
You can always make it a little bit bigger. Okay. So we're gonna go ahead and just test the screw.
Okay, you always want to start with the bottom one first.
I'm just gonna use this to kind of prop this material up. Okay, so there we go.
And you're just going to do the thickness of an ARmA15. So you can actually just hold your ARmA15 up to it like so and hand tighten it down. You can also use 3/4, it's the same thickness of the ARmA15. Then what you're going to do is go ahead and slide the ARmA15 down on the nut that you just installed. Then from there you're going to go ahead and install the second one, and you're going to hand tighten it, get it going. Okay, once you got it hand tightened in, then you're going to go ahead and take your 3/16 bit, and we have a small ratchet that works really well with this, but you can use just a regular bit and a crescent wrench and accomplish the same thing.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Okay.
All right, so first we're going to go over. Okay, so we're going to go over a little bit about locks and different lock options and how they work with the ARmA15. This is a Master Lock 1500 ID, and basically for demonstration purposes only, the combination to this one is up and down. Okay, and that opens up the lock. That's all it takes. This is a directional movement. You can program it to whatever you want. You can do up to 12 movements. This is 2 movements. Okay, but you can do whatever you want, and this is the actual fastest one that we have seen for the ARmA15. And once you have the lock unlocked, taking it off the ARmA15 will cause the spring-loaded lock bar and the spring-loaded lock pin to open automatically. Okay. Then once that happens, you're going to grab the ARmA15 and you just lift straight up. From there, you'd have your empty magazine. You can load right there. Okay. Now this user is using a AR pistol in this configuration, but it has a typical, a little bit longer stock, as you can see, than a standard collapsible stock, because it has an extension right here. That's just to get better better purchase on your shoulder. But at any rate, you can see that you're going to want to look at that, and if you the location that we put it in maximizes the flexibility of the system, meaning we can put a 16-inch barrel AR on here if we wish with a collapsible stock, and it'll still fit in here. So another lock that we're going to talk about is a hidden shackle lock. And the hidden shackle lock, the way that it works is you have a shackle that is completely hidden on the back side. Okay, and how that works with the ARmA15 is the shackle obviously goes into the lock pin and then locks. Now this lock is not intended in any way to be the fast lock or the lock that you're getting to under stress. This is the lock, imagine long-term storage, you're in a shady area and you're away from your vehicle. That's what this lock is for. And you don't have to use this lock if you don't want to, you can just go with the fast one, but having both allows you to have flexibility. So if you're looking at long-term storage, this is a very heavy-duty lock for maximum security. And again, taking the lock off will, again, as soon as the shackle is removed, the lock pin automatically pops down, the lock bar automatically pops open, having the AR-15 accessible to you. It is also held in by the magazine release. So what that means is you can carry it in this fashion if you want, if your seat's up and like that. Since this is a pistol, in the state that we're in, you would have to have this concealed since it's in your vehicle, right? So it just depends on, you have to check your local laws whether it needs to be openly or concealed depending on what rifle or pistol you're putting on. All right, what else? All right, so make sure that you go to ARmA15.com to download the PDF file that we're going to have where you buy the hardware for the Chevy and GMC pickup trucks for the riv nut kit. So you'll have the PDF, so that way you can kind of follow along with what we said in the video and not have to be messing with your phone or laptop or something like that while you're actually doing it. You can just follow along, watch the video before you do it, and then follow along with the instructions. But also, please let us know what you think of the video. We have the Dodge trucks are extremely similar. The hardware is a little bit different, but the installation process is almost identical to this truck. So if you have a Dodge pickup truck, just buy our Dodge riv nut kit and the installation video. If you have a vehicle and you want to see a video, if you have ideas for a video or something you want to see, just go ahead and post that in the comments below. Make sure to thumb up if you liked it, thumb down if you hated it. Post any comments you have. We'd love to hear any feedback from you or future videos that you want to see from us. Let us know. Thank you. ARmA15.com.